This is the Agentic Executive, intelligence briefings for high-leverage operators. I'm Adrian Cross, and today we're going to talk about one of the quietest sources of drag in your organization, old decisions that never die.
And I'm Amelia Voss. If your calendar is full of meetings that exist because of choices no one remembers making, this episode is for you.
Most teams treat decisions like permanent commits. You run a pilot, it sort of works, and then, without anyone really noticing, it becomes the way we do things. Budgets lock in, processes harden, people get hired around it. 5 quarters later, you're defending a choice no one ever consciously renewed.
You can usually spot these by the vocabulary. Someone says with a slightly tired voice, "Well, that's just our process," or "That's the tool we use." No one can tell you when or why or for how long that decision was meant to last.
The hidden cost isn't just money, it's option space. Every legacy decision you carry forward by inertia consumes capacity, headcount, bandwidth, emotional energy that could be pointed at new bets. When yesterday's choices never expire, today's opportunities never get a clean shot.
And because no one designed an off-ramp, any attempt to change course feels political. People worry about blame, sunk cost, reputations. It's not just, is this still working? It quietly becomes, will I look bad if we admit it's not?
The core idea today is simple. Treat non-permanent decisions as time-bound experiments. Every change you make, pricing tweaks, vendor pilots, AI automations, policy shifts, gets 3 things on day 1: an explicit expiry date, a small set of monitoring signals, and pre-written rules for what happens when the clock runs out.
Think of it as decision hygiene. You're not committing forever. You're saying, we're going to try this for a defined window, watch a few critical signals, and then either renew it with intent or revert on purpose. The system reveals the truth, not the loudest opinion in the room.
We'll frame this as the Decision Expiry Protocol. 3 moves: assign, monitor, revert, or renew. I'll walk through each, and we'll attach concrete examples so you can deploy this with your team this week.
And watch how small these moves actually are. You don't need a big governance committee. You need a few crisp defaults and the discipline to write them down.
Move 1. Assign. Give every decision a simple label and a default expiry. I like a 1-line taxonomy. Trial, pilot, policy. That's it.
Unpack those for us, because the labels do a lot of quiet work in people's heads.
Trial is a short, low-stakes experiment. You're mostly testing viability. Default expiry, 14 days. A pilot is a contained test in a live environment, with real customers or real ops. Default expiry, 60 days. Policy is still changeable, but it's your default way of operating. Default expiry, 180 days for re-evaluation.
So if I'm listening to this on the way to the office, I can literally say, this new AI routing workflow, that's a pilot with a 60-day expiry. This tweak to our sales comp, that's policy with a 180 re-eval. Labels plus timers.
Exactly. And 2 more elements in the assign move: a named owner and simple success criteria. 1 person with their name on it, and 2 or 3 sentences that define in plain language what success and failure look like at the expiry.
This solves one of the big risks, people hiding behind the label. If everyone thinks it's just a pilot, so no one really owns it, you get drift and excuses. When there's a name plus a time box, you create healthy pressure without theatrics.
If you want a template, here's the 1-line version. We are running a trial, pilot, policy on X, owned by Y, expiring on date. It's a success if A and B,
a failure if C, and we will either renew or revert at expiry. That's enough to anchor expectations.
You can drop that into a Slack channel or the top of a Notion page in about 30 seconds. Precision drives agency.
Move 2. Monitor. Once you've assigned a label and an expiry, you decide how you'll keep score. This is where most teams either overbuild or underbuild. They either set up a full data warehouse project or they just hope.
Let's thread the needle. What does lightweight but real monitoring look like for you?
Pick 2 or 3 signals, max. I like 1 quality signal, 1 cost or efficiency signal, and 1 engagement or risk signal, depending on what you're changing. Then add a simple AI probe that summarizes drift once a week into a 2-line alert.
So for a customer support automation pilot, you might track average handle time, customer satisfaction score, and escalation rate. Then have an AI agent pull those metrics weekly, compare them to your baseline, and send a short summary. We're within tolerance, or we're outside on CSAT for the second week.
Right. The goal is not dashboard theater. The goal is a tiny governance robot tapping you on the shoulder when reality drifts from your assumptions. 2 lines. Relative to baseline, here's what changed. Here's whether we're inside or outside the tolerance band you set at the start.
And this is where you avoid another risk, noisy or badly chosen signals that trigger fire drills. Start conservative. Use high signal metrics you already trust. Run a 30 to 90-day period where the monitoring exists, but you still have a human finalizing any big moves.
You can even backtest your thresholds on historical data. Ask your AI assistant, if we had used this tolerance band over the last 6 months, how often would we have triggered a review? If it's every other day, your band is too tight. If it never fires, you're too loose.
Patterns create power. Once you see how often reality actually moves enough to matter, you can tune your alerts so that when the AI pings you, you pay attention instead of rolling your eyes.
Move 3. Revert or renew. This is where the protocol really earns its keep. Before you launch the decision, you pre-write 2 outcomes. If the signals are inside your band at expiry, you renew with clear parameters. If they're outside, you revert to baseline or to a safer default using a lightweight rollback playbook.
This is also where you dodge the political backlash. If people feel like changes get ripped out of their hands without warning, they push back hard. If from day one you say, here's the expiry, here's what we'll check, here's what happens on each path, you're not surprising anyone. You're following through.
Give yourself one more safety valve, a short human check window. For anything with real strategic or reputational weight, pair the automatic rule with a 48 to 72-hour review before full rollback. Basically, we intend to revert. Here's the data. Any critical context we're missing.
And have a 1-page rollback playbook. Who flips the switches, which configs or contracts change, what you tell internal teams, and, if needed, what you say to customers. If it takes 30 meetings to undo a decision, you'll delay and rationalize instead of learning.
Now, let's make this concrete with 3 quick examples: pricing, AI automation, and a new vendor relationship.
Perfect. Let's start where everyone feels it. Pricing experiments.
Say you want to test a 10% price increase on a specific segment. You label it a pilot with a 60-day expiry. Owner, the head of revenue operations. Success looks like no more than a 5% drop in conversion, stable churn, and at least an 8% uplift in net revenue from that cohort.
Your signals, conversion rate, churn for that segment, and net revenue per account. Your AI probe sends a weekly note. Conversion is down 3%. Churn unchanged, net revenue up 9%, inside your band. At 60 days, you renew the pricing, maybe expand it, and update the label from pilot to policy with a fresh 180-day re-eval.
If instead conversion falls 12% and net revenue is flat, your pre-written rule says revert prices for that segment to baseline within a week, notify sales, update collateral, and document the lesson. Segment X is more price sensitive than assumed at this tier.
Next, AI automation. Imagine an AI assistant handling first-line customer emails. You treat it as a pilot, again with a 60-day expiry. Owner, the support director. Success is at least 30% reduction in human handle time, CSAT within 2 points of baseline, and escalations not exceeding, say, 10%.
Signals, average response time, CSAT, and escalation rate. The AI probe compares each metric to your pre-AI baseline every week. If you are inside the band at expiry, you renew with a plan to expand coverage or add new intents. If CSAT is consistently below your threshold, you revert. Pull the assistant back to a narrower scope or switch it to draft-only mode, where humans approve responses.
And your rollback playbook here says things like turn off full auto mode, enable human in the loop, update the macro library with what we learned, and send a quick note to the support team so they're not surprised when their queue changes tomorrow. No drama, just following the script.
Third example, a new vendor relationship. Maybe you're piloting a new data provider or marketing platform. You label it a pilot with a 60 or 90-day expiry. Owner, the functional lead who consumes the output. Success, the vendor hits service levels, improves your key metric by a defined amount, and total cost per outcome is at or below your current baseline.
Signals might be uptime or latency SLAs, performance metrics like lead quality, and effective cost per qualified result. Your AI assistant can pull the vendor's reports, cross-check against internal data, and flag any pattern of underperformance before the contract auto-renews.
At expiry, if the vendor is inside your band, you renew intentionally and maybe negotiate better commercial terms because you now have data. If they are outside, you execute the revert plan, route traffic back to the prior vendor or in-house stack, cap spend, and communicate the change. The key is that none of this is a surprise. You told everyone the sunset date up front.
Notice the pattern across all three. You're not making perfect predictions. You're designing cheap ways to be wrong and fast ways to correct. The system, again, reveals the truth.
Last piece, documentation. This is where you turn one decision into a reusable asset instead of a one-off story that lives in someone's memory.
And you don't need a novel. What's the minimum viable record here?
3 parts. 1. The outcome. We renewed or we reverted, plus the key metrics. 2. A one-line lesson. Price sensitivity for SME customers is higher than assumed, or AI routing works best on Tier 2 requests. 3. A reuse rule. Next time we test pricing in this segment, start with a smaller increase, or any future AI workflow must fit this CSAT floor before going full auto.
You can keep all of these in a single running log. Over 6 to 12 months, you'll see patterns emerge, where your intuition is strong, where it's weak, and where you consistently under or overcommit. Patterns create power.
Here's your action step today. Don't boil the ocean. Pick one active decision that's currently floating in the gray zone. Maybe it's a tool you're trying, a hiring plan you sought adopted, or an automation that just kind of went live.
Give it a real frame. Choose the label, pilot, or policy. Set an expiry between 30 and 90 days. Name an owner. Write 2 sentences on success, 2 on failure. Decide on 2 or 3 signals and 1 simple AI check-in.
Then publish it.
Drop the decision expiry into a team channel, a brief note, or the top of the relevant doc. Here's what we're doing. Here's when it expires. Here's how we'll decide to renew or revert. When people can see the timer, they stop assuming permanence.
You'll feel a subtle shift. Instead of defending the past, your team starts anticipating the next evaluation. The question becomes, what will the system tell us at expiry, and what will we do with that information? That's a more agentic posture.
If this briefing helped you tighten how you make and unmake decisions, follow the show and share it with one operator on your team who owns experiments, pilots, or vendor calls. Clarity is leverage, and you want it distributed, not hoarded.
You'll get more concise frameworks like this in your feed. So hit follow now, and you won't miss the next briefing.
Make your next move count. Stay agentic.